Alright, hey everybody. So, I thought to start a new podcast series. I was toying with the idea for a little while before fully deciding to go with it. And yeah, so basically, I'm going to be cataloging my reactions and thoughts and everything on Kamen Rider Zeztz as it airs. Because this is the first Kamen Rider series with pretty much day one of each episode, international distribution and subtitling, and I think it's in Portugal, maybe somewhere in Latin America, that it's also getting an international dub, which is actually pretty cool. So, yeah, and I thought I was originally going to do this every 5 episodes. I've actually reconsidered that to be more in with like every 2 episodes or even 4 episodes because the series, and I've read that Kamen Rider apparently does this and has been doing this for years, has been going in like 2 episode um, story arcs or 2 part stories and everything, which I think will be better for just talking about the series as it goes along. Plus, I can do one of these every 2 weeks. So yeah. So in terms of to give you guys a sense of what I know or my own experience with Kamen Rider, in regards to Kamen Rider itself, I remember seeing the Saban's Masked Rider like crossover 3-parter from the '90s with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and yeah, that was a thing. That was certainly a thing of all time. And then did not ever see anything in terms of the Saban's Masked Rider series. And then Kamen Rider Dragon Knight kind of passed me by. I didn't know it was a thing mainly because I wasn't watching like WB or anything at the time because I was 2008. I was 12 years old. I was watching mainly like Nickelodeon, Disney Channel, and Cartoon Network and all that. So yeah, Kamen Rider Dragon Knight really should have aired on like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or something like that to get more viewers and everything. I think that would have helped it be more successful as well. So yeah, um, eventually I do hope to watch that. I do plan to watch that series. But yeah, but in terms of Kamen Rider elsewhere, my first real experience with Kamen Rider was the first two superhero Taisen movies. I haven't seen anything after that in terms of that movie series. Um, Superhero Taisen 1 is not that good, and then Superhero Taisen Z is meh. Um, from what I remember of them. Um, and yeah, maybe I need to just rewatch them, but I just genuinely don't like Superhero Taisen 1 because Jesus Christ. I came into that as a Sentai fan and mainly a fan of Gokaiger, and holy shit, that movie is just so bad for just as a Gokaiger fan alone. I don't even know how to approach it as a Kamen Rider fan. But yeah, the main reasons I just don't like it are that uh in terms of the Gokaigers themselves, I think it screws up or mishandles their relationship so much that it's just so stupid. And I don't really think that the writers got their relationship to a degree. And yes, I know it's an intentional part of that movie to like have that kind of thing. However, I think that the Go Busters versus Go Kaiger movie from like months later would do that plot just a lot better. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll rewatch it when I fly to Japan in a week. But from when I'm recording this, but yeah, the action is for the most part fine. I don't like Super Taisen 1 is the beginning of the weird thing whenever the Gokaigers are brought back in future uh like productions of like Super Sentai and crossover media with Super Sentai, where the writers, because I'm assuming the writers of Super Tizen 1 were Kamen Rider writers. Um, I'm assuming they did not properly watch a lot of Gokaiger or consult the people behind the show, because the Ranger keys are not like Kamen Rider Decades Rider cards where he has them and they're separate from the powers of the past Kamen Riders. Um, because the Ranger keys are not separate from the Rangers that they come from, and they're not copies of the powers. They are the powers manifested into the keys. That is the lore behind that in Gokaiger, and in every Sentai production afterwards, they are consistently portrayed as that. However, in the Super Tizen movies, they don't care. They genuinely don't care, and they treat them like they are separate from that. Because the thing is, like, when you have Captain Marvelous mainly throughout that movie using the various Super Sentai Ranger keys to transform into different Rangers and everything, mainly the different Red Rangers, um, yet those Rangers are consistently like portrayed as still having their powers when they're in that like dimensional void and whatever. Um, and how would Captain Marvelous get them? They're supposed to be in the treasure chest for him to be able to summon them to him. But anyways, it just gets all kinds of confusing, and they keep that with, I think, Super Tizen Z a little bit, and then I'm assuming for other things if the Gokaigers transform into other Sentai Rangers in future Kamen Rider crossovers. It's just weird. Yeah, just a lot of discontinuities between them where I just don't like that movie. At some point, I will give my full thoughts on the movie in a video, but that'll probably be a few years from now. But yeah, because I do want to do like retrospectives on like the different Kamen Rider and Sentai series. But yeah, and movies and everything. But yeah, just a real waste of potential. Not that good. And I just don't like how Marvelous did not key in the other Gokaigers into his plan, and is just really, really dumb to me when it comes to that. But yeah, and then after that, I started watching Kamen Rider Drive. I enjoyed it from what I remember, but I just did not finish it after the first, like, however many episodes. I got to the crossover with Shuriken Sentai Ninja, and I just did not watch anything after that. I just didn't keep up with it. It's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't keep up with it. And then there's I have seen Kamen Rider Heisei Generations Forever several times because Shout Factory has the streaming rights to it and streams it on their YouTube channel a lot. So I've watched it multiple times through that. I think that is a movie that benefits from watching multiple times because the first time I watched it I was confused by certain things and then I didn't pick up on certain things, and upon rewatches I now fully get the movie and everything, so it all makes a lot more sense and everything. So yeah, um, I have started watching the original Kamen Rider series from 1971. I watched the first episode of Kamen Rider Black and the first episode of Kuga and all that, and I do plan on watching the other various Kamen Rider series and everything. So yeah, because like I said, I want to do retrospective videos on them. But yeah, in a Kamen Rider Drive, I've actually been watching every episode as they've come out, and except for one of the episodes, I think it was like episode 3, where I watched it when they did the repeat a week later because I didn't catch it when they were first streaming it. But yeah, but I caught up that way and that was good. Um, so yeah, basically I definitely want to get more into Kamen Rider, and Zeztz was made with an international audience in mind. And this was confirmed by the showrunner at LA Comic Con. I think, a week or two ago at this point, and he basically confirmed that at that panel that they had for it. And yeah, specifically with like stuff like the influences that they took from it being influences from stuff like Mission Impossible and James Bond and all that, because the series has a setup of having a um what do you call it? A secret agent kind of thing with this. And I think that is actually really cool to take this in terms of a Kamen Rider series. I don't know if any past Kamen Rider series have done this motif before, um, but I'm enjoying Zeztz for what it is. But yeah, and I'm going to go through the first 5 episodes in this uh, video, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts on everything as I rewatch it. So yeah, because the episodes are being released on Tokusatsu. Just a warning though, they are uploading the episodes not like raw with subtitle files and everything attached, so you can do the different languages and everything. The subtitle track is burned into the video file that they are uploading to Tokusatsu, and I think that that is mainly due to the licensing agreement and copyright and whatever and everything. Because the main reason why Kamen Rider is um, so hard for an international distributor to license as it's going on, as a new series is airing, is because TV Asahi, the channel that's airing it and I think co-producing the show or co-financing or whatever in Japan, has a timed exclusivity contract with the episodes. Um, and uh, where they have to, or where they keep within a few days of episodes airing, uh, where no one can distribute the episodes on like digital platforms or whatever, even outside of Japan, which I don't quite understand, because it's just like, I understand for in Japan, I just don't understand why outside of Japan that's not the case. I don't know. But Shout Factory are uploading the episodes every Monday after they stream them, and that's honestly really cool. I do like that. Even if they are like hard subbed, it's still fine because the subtitles are not that intrusive. They're not like TV Nihon where they have all the flashy effects and like different things. They're just, like I said, they're just the subtitles burned into the video file. And then eventually, when Shout Factory, I imagine they'll release the series on Blu-ray. When they eventually release it on Blu-ray, I'm just assuming that it's gonna be like every series except for 01, where they have the raw episode files on the discs, with the subtitle files being, or with the subtitle tracks being like able to be turned on and off. But yeah. Uh, but no time, or I'm not going to spend much more time talking about this, so let's get into the episodes, shall we? Alright, so case one actually starts out really cool. I love it. Where it's definitely an homage to old like spy movies and even some newer ones. And this is where you can tell the James Bond influence definitely comes into play for this series. Because it has sequences like this that I think are very well shot. They're very well choreographed. They're very well done for the most part. And I really don't have anything I don't have anything bad to say about this part. It's just really cool. And it's also kind of set up as a bit of a pastiche of that kind of thing, because even though you do take it seriously at first, it does start kind of winding down a little bit, and some of the there's a few comedic bits that come in that are they're I don't know if they're subtle necessarily or not, but like the comedic bits of this sequence do come into play, where the fact that it seems like inconsistently the main character, Baku, um, he is shooting a mix of real bullets and rubber bullets, because at one point he shoots a bullet out of his gun at one of the bad guy's heads, and it just like uh impacts and just bounces off, kind of like I don't know, like Superman or whatever. So yeah, but then like a few bullet shots later, he is shown to actually be shooting real bullets. But yeah, but I do like this as well, because it's set up like a kind of like opening credits sequence. That is what it is set up as, and it has the names of the main actors and people involved in the show in it, which I think is actually really, really cool. And I think if this were maybe set to different music, or maybe paced a little differently or slightly differently, this could seriously be like an opening action sequence to a movie like this, to an actual like um what do you call it, like a secret agent movie and everything, which I imagine they're working on producing a couple movies for this series in Japan. Don't know if we'll get those over here. I hope that we do, but um, if they open it on like a fun action sequence that can set the tone for the movie, where it's set to like different music, and maybe goes a little bit more over the top with it, and just has fun with it, I think that we could actually get a really, really cool opening for that in a movie, especially where they'd have the higher budget and more time to produce it and everything. But we soon get uh, Baku being woken up by his sister Minami, and she she basically chides him for being obsessed with spy movies and all that, and he's basically established as being a guy who doesn't really have any future prospects or anything going on in his life at the moment. And I think that this actually is pretty relatable to like younger people. Baku is apparently 23 in the series, according to the Kamen Rider wiki. Um, and I'm not too much older than that, and even at 23, I didn't really have too many like real prospects for life. So I think that is very relatable for younger people, and it's good that they are touching upon that and everything, making him sort of an everyman kind of thing and more relatable to younger people, which I think is really good. Another thing I think that they probably just looked at and were just like, yeah, this is relatable to everybody no matter where you are. So that is really good that they did that. And I do like kind of the dynamic between him and Minami, as especially as the episodes go on, because she's his younger sister, but they're established as sharing an apartment, I believe, and they're or they're moved out from their parents' house, I believe, and because I don't believe their parents have shown up yet in the series from the episodes from just the first 5 episodes, and she clearly has a more put together life and everything, and it's just that kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of like relationship between them. Um, but she is shown to care about him a lot, and that is really good. It's one of those things where they could have easily had them be a bit more adversarial and everything, and she just doesn't care for like him too much, or at the very least she's shown to not care about him too much until like things get very serious and everything. But I do like that they are shown to have a more close like familial relationship. I think that is more realistic and everything, and that is very good. um and as the episode goes on, we have Baku wanting to get a job where he can help people. Basically, he wants to do some kind of like civil service or whatever, I imagine, where he can actually help people, and he can be something like the secret agent he is in his dreams. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about something in terms of his secret agent stuff in his dreams. In his dreams, I do like this because it seems to be influenced mainly by like Western superhero stuff. In his dreams, they when they shot this, when they shoot these sequences, they have the actor, like, I'm assuming it's like a spray dye, um, but basically like kind of like dye his hair a more like brown, kind of auburn kind of color, and they have him wear colored contacts to make his eyes more like of a light brown instead of like a dark brown or a black, as they normally are. And I think that is a nice separation between the real world and his dream world and everything. On top of that, we get something that I think might be influenced by Jim Carrey in Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I could be wrong. That's at the very least what I'm thinking it is. For a bit of comic relief during the opening sequence is he has a cowlick where part of his hair sticks up even though he tried to gel it down, and to me that just kind of seems like it may be influenced from something like that. I don't know if that's exactly the influence that they pulled from for that, but that's just what it reminded me of. Because, when Jim Carrey played Ace Ventura in the first two Ace Ventura movies, he had that kind of cowlick. Also kind of reminded me of like Superman, but I don't know if that's what they were pulling from that again. But yeah. So, anyways, when he is trying to, or when he goes in for a not a job interview, but like I forget what they're called, but like basically an agency where they try to help people get jobs. He was talking to a little girl before he was going to talk to the guy about a job, and the little girl she starts to get abducted by an older man, possibly getting human trafficked, and that's something that I didn't really expect them to touch upon, but I think is actually really interesting that they did that. So yeah, and it was a little too easy. I'm not gonna lie. And it seems like the little girl's mother was maybe she went to the bathroom, or maybe she was being interviewed or whatever, because she comes back and she sees that her daughter isn't there, and she starts yelling out for her. But the guy already took her daughter down in the elevator to the ground floor and was gonna take her away in his car. And why do I keep forgetting the guy's name? Baku. Baku tries to go save the little girl, but he's interrupted when this mysterious guy causes a car to move forward at a good speed and hit him. Which, this is kind of reminding me of Guy from Gokaiger, where he has a very similar thing in his introductory episodes, and where he explains his backstory and how he got his powers and everything. He was in a similar situation where he was put into, well, not actually a coma. Well, actually, no. Guy was put into a coma. Baku was kind of not. He wasn't run over by the car. He was just hit by the car, which I would think would cause roughly the similar, if not the same, kind of injuries and everything. But yeah. So yeah. The thankfully the mom gets the little girl back. They make sure to show that and everything, which is cool, which is good. The guy who was abducting the little girl just goes off. No idea what happens to him, and I don't remember if he shows up in future episodes. Kind of a loose end to not do anything towards that guy, but we'll see. But yeah, so then Baku is in the hospital. His sister chides him for trying to emulate stuff from his like spy movies and his dreams and everything. because real life is not like his dreams or his movies. So then Baku falls asleep, and he's starting to be tortured by what are called the nightmares. That is the main, or those are the main enemies of this series. And I like that this flips the opening sequence on its head in terms of tone and pacing and everything, because this seems to take influence from stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street, where you have Freddy Krueger torturing the torturing Baku, or no, Freddy Krueger torturing the main characters of the movies by trapping them in the or contacting them, I guess, entering their dreams and like fucking with them in their dreams, and what is the word? And basically just torturing them until he can kill them in their dreams and everything, and it spreads over into real life. And this pretty much just goes into an homage to those kinds of movies, specifically Nightmare on Elm Street. I've only seen the first Nightmare on Elm Street. I do have the others, I just haven't watched them. And I watched it when I was a kid with my brother and my parents in the same room. And not a great horror movie to show a kid, I'm just gonna say. But yeah, so, and I think I was like 10 or something like that at the time. So yeah, definitely not good. And so the nightmare starts torturing him, and he starts realizing he's dreaming. They established the lucid dreaming aspect of what he was doing earlier. So he realizes he's in a dream, and immediately like dons his agent persona. But because the nightmare isn't from his dream, and more so the nightmare is influencing his dream and turning it into a nightmare, he can't defeat the nightmare just as he is. And it's carrying over into his real life as well, where he gets floated up into the air for a second and then slammed back down by the nightmare. And then apparently like he goes into cardiac arrest and his heart stops for a bit, and the nurses and doctors at the hospital are trying to revive him. And I guess he ends up like dead for probably a good few minutes IRL. And yeah, so then a commander, I forget his name, Commander 1 or something like that. The commander just randomly shows up. He's this guy shrouded in darkness, and he says that he's in the subconscious of his mind, I believe, and he gives him a device. We don't necessarily know what this is yet, but Baku puts it on, and I believe that's when he starts breathing again in real life, and he basically activates it. So it's the Zeztz driver, and basically it's themed or designed after a like sling backpack, whatever, and which I think is a very interesting way to sort of iterate upon the driver belts that, or the rider belts that we usually get in Kamen Rider. Not to say that Kamen Rider hasn't had characters that transform with different kinds of devices, but like usually it is a belt. That has been a thing since 1971. So this is like, I think this is the first Kamen Rider to not have a traditional belt but have something similar to it. I think that's very interesting to sort of update that for modern day with a sling pack. So yeah, so he then has this like ball that he puts into it. He activates the device, and then he spins the ball, and that causes him to transform into Kamen Rider Zeztz. And the suit for Kamen Rider Zeztz is a reimagining of the original Kamen Rider Ichigo suit, and it's very interesting. I feel like maybe it was designed with the belt around his waist as opposed to on his chest. Because it just seems like there's a bit of empty space right there. It reminds me of the Amazing Spider-Man 1 suit, for Spider-Man, where they redesigned it so that it doesn't look like there's a belt around his waist. It's just kind of there and whatever. Same thing with Superman in the DCEU, where they redesigned his suit slightly so he didn't have anything that looked like a belt. It's really weird when you have something like that. It also specifically looks like a gymnast suit, like that kind of spandex kind of thing. Um, and yeah, but otherwise, I do like the design for the most part. It's just a little weird to get used to. So yeah, so he transforms into Kamen Rider Zeztz, and he takes down the Nightmare. And after that happens, he wakes up, and another thing that they're taking from Nightmare on Elm Street, he has the Zeztz driver and everything still on him when he wakes up. It's around his chest, and though it's under his clothes, under his shirt, and he has everything else besides him. And yeah, another thing is they have the paranormal division of the Bureau of Investigation, I believe, um, or the Japanese FBI, I believe, and like the main guy is keeping tabs on him because he was the one that was at the site where the car hit Baku, and he what was it? I'm trying to remember. He saw that there was no driver in the car, and he I'm assuming he saw to it that Baku got in an ambulance and taken to the hospital and everything. And yeah, so then that guy comes in the doorway and sees Baku awake and that he has the Zeztz driver, and it's just very interesting that they chose to do that. And that's where they kind of like end the episode with the theme song playing over the credits. And I do like how they have the credits here, where they have the credits playing over the like final scene of the episode, and what's going on and everything, so that the credits aren't boring. Because that's kind of a thing where I don't really give two shits about watching credits sequences in TV shows or movies. And that's mainly because, they're literally just like a black background or a static image or something like that, or maybe a montage of static images with the credits just scrolling. I don't really care for that whatsoever, so I think the way that they're doing it here with this kind of thing is actually pretty good. Oh yeah, and that's also another thing. We don't get a standard opening credits sequence in this episode. We don't get that until episode 4. And I think that's actually interesting. They use the time to like for plot development and pacing and better pacing and everything. And I think that is actually really good. So yeah, I think this is actually a pretty good first episode for the most part. The action during the fight sequence with Baku as Kamen Rider Zeztz and the Nightmare could be a little better. I think it could have been a bit better shot, or maybe like sped up a little bit, because when he starts running during a particular sequence, I think it's a little too slow, or maybe they could have modified how he was running or whatever. I don't know. It just looked a little weird to me, but I don't necessarily think it's bad. It's just a little weird. But yeah, so otherwise, good episode. On to the next. Sorry, just real quick. Something I forgot to mention in that particular part is that the series has a lot of actually pretty good, barely accented English in it. And on top of that, I found also that the fight between Kamen Rider Zeztz and the Nightmare definitely seems to be maybe a bit of an homage to, I think, episode 2 of the original Kamen Rider series, where it was like shot at night and fought outside of this like building. I don't necessarily know if that's what they were going for, but it did give me a bit of feelings of towards that, or it reminded me of that, because I have seen the first 2 episodes of the original Kamen Rider. But yeah, so yeah, on to the next. Okay, so we get case number 2, explode. So yeah, so another thing I forgot to mention from the first episode is the character of Nim, who is apparently in the world of Kamen Rider Zeztz, a real life uh, girl who, or young woman who is in a bunch of advertisements for various things, and I guess she also just appears in Baku's dreams, but also apparently a lot of other people's dreams, as established in this episode. And she's also self-aware in the dreams, meaning that she might also be a lucid dreamer, but I don't believe that's been mentioned or that's been answered yet in the episodes that we've gotten thus far. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in future episodes when we actually get to meet her in real life, because I had missed this part when I had seen this episode previously, that like that was the intent with her. I just missed that line. Um, but yeah, and whenever I'm assuming Baku is probably going to meet her in real life, it's going to be a very interesting thing that they do with that. But yeah, so we have that. We have the episode beginning where he's in a dream in one of his secret agent adventures, and he's being chased down by police for some reason, which is led by Mr. Fujimi from the previous episode, who was the guy from the paranormal division, tracking down Baku and investigating all that with the nightmares and everything. And yeah, so Baku wakes up after, I believe, he defeats the nightmare, or actually no, doesn't defeat him, but like fights him off for a bit. And yeah, so he wakes up. He still has the Zeztz driver on him, um, and I don't know what he was trying to do, but I guess he just couldn't get it off, so he had it under his clothes. But or actually no, he could get it off. He just hid it under his shirt. Now I'm remembering. And so Fujimi and his assistant, Natsuka. There we go. Natsuka, or Naska. Naska. Naska Nagumo. But yeah. They run into him because Fujimi wants to keep tabs on him, on Baku, because of the fact that his wounds from the car accident healed impossibly fast while he was in the hospital. And on top of that, the Zeztz driver being on him and everything, he wants to know more about that. He basically just wants to know more about what's going on. And when they meet up with Baku, it's established that Fujimi was actually part of Baku's dream, as he remembers what's going on, or what happened in it as well. Meaning it seems like the nightmare is connecting the worlds of Baku and Fujimi's dreams. And yeah, very interesting concept here. Another play with something from, I think, Nightmare on Elm Street, where you can have these like interconnected, psychically linked dreams caused by the main bad guy of the thing. So yeah, and we just have all of that, and then we have the establishment of Baku becoming a secret agent in the real world. And I was right with remembering the commander from the previous episode's name, Commander Zero. He links a secret agent base in the back of Baku's closet, and uh, he uh, he remote controls a robot that can transform into the motorcycle for Zeztz, and he is introducing him to all these concepts and everything, and he introduces how Baku can get his the orbs that he uses to transform and do all the different things as Kamen Rider Zeztz, which they are themed after what is the word? I am genuinely trying to remember. Gotcha machines. There we go. Gotcha machines and uh the containers that are like orbs and circles and whatever that you get out of them, and yeah, that sort of thing there. And I imagine in Japan by now there are gotcha machines with stuff for Kamen Riders that's in them. In fact, if I remember from Toy Collectibles, with their pre-orders of stuff from Kamen Riders, that's yeah, yeah, that kind of stuff. It'll be interesting when I go to Japan next, and if I see those anywhere. But yeah, so um, we have all that. It's also established that in his dreams he understands English, but in real life he really doesn't, outside of probably just some loan words and phrases that he's heard. So, yes, and we get that because Commander Zero starts to speak to him in English, but he says he doesn't speak English in real life. So the guy switches to Japanese, and that's a bit funny. So yeah, so after all that, Baku goes back to sleep and starts to investigate in his dream the nightmare and everything, and he chases after him on his bike and transforms into Kamen Rider Zeztz. And I gotta say, I do like the stuff regarding Zeztz being on his motorcycle and doing the secret agent stuff in this episode with that. And I do like how the visual effects department is doing the various things in this episode in these episodes, because you have the transformation with Kamen or into Kamen Rider Zeztz being like this black mist that envelops Baku as he transforms into everything. And in this, they do that while he's on the bike. And while they definitely do cut away into the suit actor being on the bike, I think that's still cool that they do that. Kamen Rider hasn't really had a ton of bike sequences, from what I understand, in recent years, and that's mainly due to like laws and restrictions with shooting on motorcycles and everything. So they can't really do too much, unfortunately, like they would be able to back in the 70s. But yeah, 70s and into the 80s. But yeah, so we just have that. One other thing I like that they did as well is during the action sequence at the beginning when he transforms into Kamen Rider Zeztz, he's all like black and white and gray until like the color fully like envelops him and like fills up his visor on his helmet, and that's actually a really cool touch and everything, and I do like it. So yeah. However, before Baku can really get anywhere with the nightmare, it disappears, and the guy who is seemingly controlling the nightmares, or at the very least commanding them, appears and says stuff about dreams being from one's subconscious, which is something that Baku's sister said earlier in the episode. They also established, right, I forgot this from the first episode as well, that Baku is very unlucky and everything, and nothing good really happens in his life without there being some terrible shit to, I guess, counterbalance it. Which is a very interesting sort of dynamic with all that. And I guess that just has led him to wanting to shift that and turn his life around and just have a better life or have it be better than how it's been going thus far. And it's just a very interesting sort of thing that they established for his character. He's not unlucky all the time. They don't go cartoony with it. However, they do establish like he is unfortunately very unlucky and has been unlucky in his life, and certain incidents have happened every so often in his life growing up. So much so that there's a rap sheet for it. Um, from like news articles and stuff like that. But yeah, in a case file and whatever. So yeah, and unfortunately, there's not really too much more to this episode. Um, because of that, we're starting to get into the 2 episode or the 2 part stories and everything. So yeah, there's not too much else to talk about because there's not really a ton going on. It seems like they're pacing this as more of just like if these episodes were a 1 part kind of thing and they were like 45 minutes rather than a story broken up into 2 parts that are 22 minutes to 23 minutes each. But hey, I'm not bored and I do like how it's going thus far. And and yeah, it does make everything a bit weirdly paced, though. I'm just gonna say it's a different kind of pacing though from like Super Sentai, where they will have multiple parters, but they will try to make sure that there's a satisfying beginning, middle, and end of each episode, even if it's a multi-parter. And they will mainly just do like standalone stories and everything that connect to a larger narrative, rather than doing a lot of multi-parters. But as I understand, this is how Kamen Rider's been doing it for a while, so I understand. Um, but it is just a little weird in terms of that kind of pacing. But yeah, I really don't have much else to say on this. Just another good episode, and on to the next. Also, right, I kept forgetting to say this in the first episode and this one. The series is giving me similar feels to, or similar vibe to Tokyo Sentai Go Busters, with the whole agent thing and the like buddy roid kind of thing, except it's not more like kid focused in that aspect in terms of like the buddy roids and whatever. It's just another thing, and it goes well. It does go well with the secret agent shtick. So yeah. So again, on to the next one. All right, so this is probably the most high stakes episode thus far, and it reveals a few more things about how the logic of everything works and everything, and it also has just, I think, more personal kind of stakes a little bit. So the episode picks up right from the ending of the last one, um, where Baku has to, or where the explosion in the building from the dream extends to the real life version of the building. And Baku sees this and is freaked out about it. He talks to Commander Zero about it, and Zero confirms that that's one of the most dangerous things about the nightmares. They can also affect the real world. And yeah. And he also says that if someone has all 3 of the doors to their dreams or their hearts, something like that, opened, they will stay asleep and everything, and they will never wake up from their bad dream. And yeah, and we see that come into play when Fujimi loses his job, or not loses his job because he doesn't really get fired, but like the paranormal affairs division of the police department he works for is terminated, and he's put on, I'm assuming, temporary leave because the commander, I think, or something like that, or police chief, puts him on temporary leave because he just doesn't believe that the nightmares stuff is real. And Fujimi just needs some time off to like recalibrate and everything. So yeah, to which I don't really know how to take how they play, or how the actor who plays the police chief, I don't know how to take how he plays the chief in that scene, because it seems like maybe the police chief should be played as a little bit more wanting to be sympathetic to Fujimi's like mental state and how he views his mental state and everything. Because it seems like he thinks that Fujimi's mental state is that he's been working a lot in the paranormal affairs division, and he's been working pretty close to what they're doing. So he probably thinks that the guy is just in need of some actual like time off to rest and everything. So yeah, and he's kind of just played as like kind of very stern and emotionless, or just like maybe it's part of the play and whatever, but then that never comes back into play, at least in this episode. So I don't really know how to take it. We'll see if they further anything that the police chief does in a future episode. But yeah, so I'm trying to think. Basically, after that, the nightmare from the previous episode, um, basically connects himself to Fujimi, and Fujimi is so pissed off at the police chief that the nightmare takes advantage of that and goes to blow up the police chief's office at uh, the police headquarters, and that also extends to real life. Baku tries to stop that before it happens, but unfortunately does not end up succeeding, and the nightmare then opens the third door to Fujimi's dreams, and manages to transport itself to the real world by basically taking over Fujimi's body, and all that. So Baku has to wake up. He sees that he has to go to the scene at the police station and solve the problem himself in real life as opposed to in his dreams. The nightmare taunts him a bit and does kick him around a bit as well. But then he puts on the Zeztz driver, has the orb and everything, activates it, and transforms into Kamen Rider Zeztz. And they have a pretty good fight, I'll say that. And it's funny because he uses the impact form and then another form which allows him to stretch his body, basically giving him the powers of Monkey D. Luffy. And he uses like his stretchy powers to hit the nightmare a couple times, throws back a fire blast that the nightmare throws at him, and then uses his stretchy powers or his stretchy arms to go past the nightmare and then sneak up on the nightmare when the nightmare says he's just a giant bomb and he's gonna detonate no matter what. And Baku manages to disarm the bomb by cutting the wires on the inside of the nightmare before he can explode. And that, I think, was actually pretty clever. I probably should have, but I didn't really see it coming, and I do like how they play it so that it's paced in a certain way where you don't see that coming. So, yeah. So then he destroys the nightmare, and it should be also said, when the nightmare gets to Earth, or the real world, it sends out like an energy wave that I think it's trying to make everyone maybe fall asleep and go into nightmares, but they don't really they don't really establish what happens with everyone else. Um, and I'm assuming it'll come back into play later on to show what that is, but it doesn't really. They don't really show it. They don't really show the impact of whatever the hell that was. Like in this episode, it kind of seems maybe there was maybe I'm assuming there may be a deleted scene or something for it, but it just seems really weird that they decided not to show it in this episode. You think that maybe we would have gotten like a quick scene or like quick reactions of the people like reacting negatively to that negative energy, but I don't know. It's just a little weird. But yeah, so yeah, and then Fujimi wakes up outside of the police station, and what is her name? Natsuki. She gets to him, and then Baku basically just says something about his dream, something about Fujimi's dreams, and then gets out of there because on his bike and everything. Just a little hurt still, but not too badly damaged. Like say in the second episode, or no, the first episode. But yeah, and yeah, so I do like this episode and how it does stuff to amp up the stakes and everything, to raise the stakes and everything, and it just honestly, it's a very interesting way to amp up the stakes this early on. You wouldn't think that they would do it like this early on. You think that maybe they would have a couple more like adventures in the dream world before shit got more real and entered the real world and everything. But I do like that it is establishing these stakes and early on, and establishing that yes, these things can happen in what is the real world in this show. And it definitely has a good thing of having Baku step up and like be the hero and everything. It kind of reminds me of No Watch Ben from Ben 10 Omniverse, where he doesn't have an Omnitrix because it doesn't exist in his universe, and he is just a normal person who kind of reacts to a lot of things very normally. But in the two-parter where he is, when he has to step up, he will and does. And it's a very similar kind of thing to that. And it is really cool that they have that. And on top of that, they keep the Zeztz stuff away from like public view. So the public does not currently know about Zeztz. And also, this is the episode where we get the name drop of Zeztz. When Zero is explaining things to Baku about what he needs to do and everything. And he says that he has to use the power of Zeztz. And yeah, so I do like that little bit of that. I'm assuming you could re-edit these episodes. Maybe if you had the raw footage and everything, you could re-edit these episodes into like a movie length sort of edit, or a 60-minute edit, and it would be, or a little bit over a 60-minute edit, and it would be very interesting to watch as sort of a mini TV movie. But yeah, I have a feeling that that's the way that these episodes were written and probably shot. So yeah, so it's pretty good. I like this little 3-parter that we got here for the opening. So yeah, not really much else to say. So on to episode 4. Oh, also the mission complete thing that Baku says at the end of everything. Also reminds me of Go Busters, because they have in Japanese they have shutdown complete, which just it goes along with that sort of like agent aesthetic. And again, it's just giving me sort of like flashbacks to to Go Busters. It's just that I think that this has a better tone to it and a bit better writing to it, and everything. So yeah, like they figured out how to properly do it. So yeah, on to the next one. All right, so I'm gonna tackle episodes 4 and 5 at the same time, which I don't think I've said the names of the episodes in a while. Episode 2 is named Explode. 3 is Erode. 4 is Rob, and 5 is Crash. So yeah, so I decided to tackle these both at the same time because, well, again, two-part stories. Sorry, two-part stories, and it just makes more sense because yeah, this is kind of where the two-part story format kind of starts to rear its ugly head in regards to some things. Basically, in regards to this, the plot is a little bit stretched thin. I feel like you could have easily tackled this plot specifically in one episode as opposed to two, because the thing about it is it's about Baku finding or being in another dream and seeing this woman who's about to get married to her fiance. And in the dream, he is the minister, I believe, or not minister, priest, whatever. Um, the guy who's gonna marry them, and he he ends up having to track down a guy who appears in the dream, aka Japanese Ezra Miller. I'll call him because he looks almost exactly like Ezra Miller, just Japanese. So yeah, um, and it's revealed that eventually that this guy has kind of been stalking the woman from the dream, and yeah, um, Baku finds out that the guy is one of the woman's childhood friends, and he thinks that, and he the guy apparently still has feelings for her, and I guess doesn't want her to get married to her fiance. It's one of those weird things. So then, uh, what then happens is, I'm trying to think. Baku, uh, starts tailing the guy. He thinks that guy is the one who was dreaming the dream he was part of. But it turns out no, it's just the woman, and we get one of the most kind of sort of anticlimactic things. Uh, After he figures out it's the woman who was uh, dreaming the dream from the beginning of the first part of the story, he thinks that she's nervous about getting married, I believe. But then it turns out, no, she's actually just nervous about going on an international flight because her fiance for their honeymoon has booked their honeymoon in New York City. And I want to say it's a bit what is the word? It's a bit anticlimactic because I don't know, you kind of expected something a little bit more, either the first thing, and maybe this turns into a plot of she doesn't want to get married to this guy, because they do set that up as the leading theory for Baku is that um, this the guy that she's marrying is the son of a wealthy business guy, so it would make sense for her to marry the guy or whatever. And with her getting with her being nervous about it, maybe she doesn't actually want to get married. Maybe she's having second thoughts. Maybe she reciprocates her childhood friend's feelings, but they don't really go that way about it. And it turns out just like, yeah, the she's nervous about um like the flight, and um I don't know, just to me at the very least it seems a bit anticlimactic because that doesn't seem to be where the um the episode was headed for that. And it comes off as a bit of a twist for the sake of a twist, and it's not particularly a strong enough twist in my opinion to really warrant it. um just my opinion, but yeah, that's just something that came to my mind in regards to thinking about that. But yeah, in other developments though, we get the theme song at the like TV version of it. There's a full version of it floating out there, and I'm assuming it got put on streaming services after episode 4 came out. Um, and yeah, from episode 4 on, we get the opening title sequence, and I like the opening title sequence. It is actually really cool. I like the cinematography of it. I like the editing of it. It just comes off really well. And yeah, then the song itself, I think, is actually pretty nice. It's sort of a techno rapping kind of thing where half the lyrics are in Japanese, half the lyrics are in English. You kind of expect that with songs for like animes and tokusatsu and all that stuff, where they pepper in English into the lyrics. And it's not really too different here, but apparently around half of the lyrics are in English. So yeah, and I'm assuming they did that on purpose because of the fact that, like I said previously, they did go into this with an international audience in mind. So to me, it just kind of makes sense on that. So yeah, then we get Fujimi and Nazca. Um, they find Baku's secret lair, quote unquote, um, in his closet, which, you know, something I forgot to mention. I think it was in episode 2. Is uh, some of the physical comedy with them is a bit funny. I Fujimi, unfortunately, they had him be a guy who is pretty much physical comedy guy, where he just goes really over the top with his actions and movements at points in every episode, and sometimes it's funny. Sometimes I just grin and bear it because, like, I don't know, when it comes to like over the top physical comedy, like uh characters like him try or tend to do it, it just generally, um I don't know, it just generally I don't know, I don't really laugh at it. um and yeah, but I will say though, in episode 2, the physical comedy of them, both him and Nazca, rolling in like just army rolling into, or somersaulting the into the back of their, like, their truck where he's holed up and everything beforehand, is just really or not really funny, but it did get a chuckle out of me because it's just so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous they don't have to do it. It comes off kind of like a bit of Austin Powers in that way, and I do kind of wish the comedy. Like, I know they're probably halfway done producing the series by now, but I would very much like if a lot of the comedy could, and the physical comedy especially, could go into that bit of a pastiche kind of thing, where it's like Austin Powers or Monty Python kind of humor, where it's self-aware that it's stupid and just has fun with it and goes the right kind of over the top with it. But we'll see how they handle the comedy in the future, because like Japanese comedy is extremely hit or miss for me. And I just honestly think that there could be a better balance between a lot of things in terms of Japanese comedy to make it hit better. But yeah. Um but yeah, so they find Baku's secret lair for his agent stuff. He, at the behest of Agent Zero, which it is Agent, not Commander, but Agent Zero, uh, tells them that he's a secret agent and everything, because they already know he's Kamen Rider Zeztz, I think, or maybe they only half know, something like that. At the very least, Fujimi does kind of know some things. Um, but he but yeah, so they just have a thing where um they've set up shop in his lair and everything, and they're now part of his team, I guess, where they're going to share information and resources and whatever at the behest of the police chief, who tells Fujimi to, and Nasuka to specifically, do what they can to find out the information that they need. So, yeah, pretty good in terms of that. I would have expected them to maybe wait a little bit longer to do something like that, but it's not bad, honestly. Um, but yeah, so we have all that, and I do like kind of the slight like comedy involved in them moving in, because it's not like over the top. It's sort of like subtle, which is good. Um, and I'm not saying all comedy needs to be subtle. It's just that I wish it was just a little bit better executed and it wasn't all in your face when it comes to Japanese comedy. But but yeah, where Fujimi hangs a sign that says like the Paranormal Affairs Division or whatever, um, in Baku's thing. Plus, they established in a previous episode that Agent Zero's robot body, or remote control robot thing that he's using to talk to Baku, that also transforms into his motorcycle. That um, he the robot drinks what is fuel that looks like tea, and they have Fujimi and Nasuka drinking it in the episode after they have started to, after they find it and they start to set up shop, um, and Baku tells them that it's fuel that looks like tea, and Fujimi's just, his reaction is funny. And Nasuka just like, I don't think she started drinking it yet, or maybe she's only had a few sips, and she just leaves it there. Oh, that is funny. Um, that is a more subdued bit of humor, but I like it. Um, so yeah, yeah, I don't really think that there's too much else other than that. We just get more steps towards establishing the status quo, and like further expansion upon the ideas and everything. But these do kind of feel like non-essential episodes outside of the few things that they established that are going to be here for a while in the show. So yeah, it's still early on in the show, so they're still establishing some things. Again, I do think that these two episodes could easily have been one episode. It feels like a one episode plot that gets stretched into two. The first three episodes had so much to do that they stretched it across 60 minutes rather than just trying to establish everything in a one or two parter. And yeah, like I do understand why they're doing two part stories, because again, like in the Heisei era, Kamen Rider did start to do that towards the second half, or in the second half of it, um, just to shake things up and everything. However, I think it is smarter when, when writers can just tell, yeah, this is only good for a one parter, or this is a two parter, or whatever. And I think it would be better if they were to like um, maybe just divvy up how many episodes per story. Like, this is a one off, this is a two parter, this is a three parter, something like that. I think that would just be smarter in terms of storytelling, because then you don't waste time and you can do more interesting things with more episodes. Just my opinion. But yeah, so I think that's just about it. These episodes are fine. It's just that after the first three, it's a bit of a come down from the high. We do get another form as well for Kamen Rider Zeztz. We also get an interesting battle on top of a dream plane, to which the green screen and CGI, not the best, but I don't think they're the worst. They're not the worst. Like, it's not the worst CGI or green screening I've ever seen.
especially in Kamen Rider, and because Heisei Generations Forever had worse CG, um, because the animators didn't get enough time to properly put good textures on the CG models or animate them in a way where they interact with the environments better, or just like blend in a bit better to their surroundings. But yeah, because even on a movie budget, I guess you can't do that for some reason. But yeah, and it really doesn't have much to do with budget. It more so has more to do with timing and the work involved. Um, where for a movie, you'd think that they would have more time, but then for a TV show, it's understandable why the CGI would be lower quality. But yeah, but yeah. So I don't really have much else to say on these episodes. So yeah, fine episodes. Just don't establish a lot, and the plots are just there. They're just there. It's kind of the definition of filler, but only like half filler, I would say. But yeah, um, and like I said, twist for the sake of a twist. So yeah. Um, so yeah. So for the next however many episodes that the show gets, I'm imagining like 45 more to get to an even 50 or so. Um, I will be doing these podcasts every 2 weeks. The next one will be right. The next one will be delayed a week because I'm going to Japan the week after I record and upload this, and so while I would be able to watch the episode live on TV when it comes out, I would not be able. Well, I do have a VPN. I would not be able to um, watch with subtitles on the Shout Factory streams. So what I'm gonna be doing is waiting for the not actually not the next episode, but the episode after. So episode 7. Um, so yeah, just gonna be delayed a week. Um, but I will watch, record, and upload all that stuff when I can. But yeah, so did you guys watch these episodes? What did you think of them? If if you have not watched this show, I will link the Shout Factory playlist for it down in the description, so you guys can watch. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this. So yeah, I'm enjoying the show so far. I think the pacing could be better in some places. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where it goes. So yeah, so we'll see. So yeah, guys. So not much else to say. Links to description on my shit. Subscribe if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one.